Here in this session, we are going to discuss about the different offerings of SQL as Azure services, and we will compare the SQL versus on-premise SQL Server. So as I mentioned, Azure SQL is the database as a service offering wherein you have the platform as a service offering provided from Azure, wherein you don't need to manage any platform or many any infrastructure for hosting your database. The entire infrastructure, network connectivity, or the security, availability of your data, or the managing the SQL Server license, and everything is going to be provided by SQL Server Azure as a database as a service, basically. The good thing about the SQL Azure as a service is it always runs on the latest version of the SQL Server. So, anytime when Microsoft Azure is introducing any new feature or releasing any new feature on the SQL Azure, so very first release is available to you. Azure to Azure SQL is in service, and then it goes to the other customer, which is on the on-premise as a licensing user, basically. So you don't need to worry about if the SQL Server is going to be changed to 2020, 24, 2030, or 2050. So it is, as for now, it is promised that any service level changes or SQL Server related changes which is going to be offered by Microsoft Azure, that is going to be available to you as in SQL as Azure services without having any cost of upgrading your service to the upgraded version of SQL Server, basically. And as I mentioned, that this is a fully managed platform as a service. You don't need to host any of the platform. You don't need to manage the server. You are just renting for the services, basically, which you are utilizing. So whatever database you are hosting, so database storage capacity or the running the database on to the server, so that particular service you are basically paying. As far as I know, the SQL Server itself, Microsoft Azure do not charge you anything. It's the database which you are hosting onto the SQL Server. For that particular database, or the tier which you are chosen to host your database, for that particular tier, you need to to pay the service charge, but the server itself you don't need to pay anything. That's a good thing about that. We'll discuss more about the service offering, what it is included, and what do I need to pay as an user. Next, as I mentioned, that the automatic update and provisioning and backup, which are available like anytime anytime in future, if the SQL Server gets upgrade from Microsoft, then it will be automatically available to you as in SQL Server, Azure SQL as a service. You don't need to opt anything extra for that. And then yes, high availability. So it provides the high availability with the SLA of 99.995% of high availability. And then based upon the service tier you choose, you can configure the geo application for your database, wherein you configure the database, you know storing your data from one geographic location to the other geographic location, so that the even entire the connection to the entire country is going to be, let's say, entire specific primary country is going to be down. Then you have the option to recover your database or to recover your data from the secondary location on the geographic. So that's a good thing about the SQL as an Azure service. So and yes, again, like other past services, SQL as an Azure provides you the auto scaling with the cost optimization. So auto scaling, it means that initially, let's say I started my business as an organization, I have the low capacity of data to be migrate or to be used by my application. Let's say I have just few hundred GB of data in my application, so I can opt for that specific tier, uh, which is uh, which is going to useful for my business. let's say S1, I can choose the S1 to start with my business, and then as the business grows, then I do have the option to, you know, to upgrade my SQL service. I don't need to, buy new additional data disk or new additional servers and join the networking patches, connectivity of those servers, now anything like that. So entire, upgradation is managed by Microsoft Azure, and you have the option. You can just click on the button and change from switch number one to switch number two, and the entire application will be upgraded from, let's say, you have the capacity of, let's say, um, S1, S3 S3 tier, and if you want to go to the premium, they just click on the button. It just fraction of few seconds, you will be upgraded to, from, let's say, few number of cores to, let's say, 8 cores to 128 cores, something like that. And the cost optimization, what do I mean by that is the cost optimization features. SQL Server, monitors the uses of your database in the background, and then it gives you the representation of the overall costing, and then it tells you, okay, as per this particular uses for the database, I think best suitable offering for your database size tier is going to be, instead of this higher tier, you should be using lower tier, or instead of using the lower tier to get the better performance, you should be upgrading to this specific higher tier to get the better performance, something like that. So there is a intelligent monitoring goes on in the background for you, which gives you the cost optimization benefit for your SQL Server.